Where does creation fit into the whole aspect of non-duality?
All there is consciousness. How does creation come about? If that which truly is infinite, indivisible, and formless, how do we account for all of this? And this is exactly the mechanism that takes place when you have a dream at night. Imagine that you fall asleep at home here in New York. You dream that you're walking on the streets of London. You dream the streets of London within your own mind, but you don't view the streets of London from your bed here in New York. In order to view the dreamed world, your own mind not only creates or imagines the streets of London within itself, it localizes itself on the streets of London within its own imagination. Manifestation is the interface between infinite consciousness and the finite mind that it seems to become. When you had a dream at night, no real streets of London are created. It's just an appearance of the reality of your finite mind. There's no real universe there, as it is normally conceived. There's no real person or separate self. These are appearances.
Considering this is the ultimate truth, who has free will, or do we have an illusion of free will?
It's true, I don't believe in reincarnation because I don't believe in incarnation.
Before we start this podcast, I just want to make one humble request. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel and press the notifications bell icon. This really helps us bring more guests to the show and have the platform to spread wisdom. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. Thank you so much, Rupert, for coming on to our show Under the Tree. You've been one of our most awaited guests.
Thank you.
I just want to dive right into a question that personally has been in my mind for a long time, which is about where does creation fit into the whole aspect of non-duality? Because there's a story, I'm sure you know, by Alan Watts, where God got bored and decided to create multiple versions of himself, and God forgot who he was. Another question that arises from that, just so you can answer that as well, is why would we, despite having this true nature at all times, decide to forget?
So the non-dual understanding suggests that reality is one, singular, indivisible, not constituted of parts. It's whole, it's complete. And being one, there's nothing in itself with which it could be either divided out or limited. If you think of, imagine physical space, the vast physical space of the universe, before there was anything in it. It's not too accurate a model, but just imagine the vast physical space of the universe, before there was any physics, objects, galaxies. All there is physical space. There's nothing in that space with which the space could be divided. You can't make a wall out of empty space. A wall made out of empty space wouldn't divide anything from anything. And likewise, there would be nothing to limit the space, no edge, no border, so the space would be unlimited. It's like that. The non-dual understanding suggests that reality is one, seamless, indivisible, whole, complete, infinite, without limit, and perfect. There's nothing in itself other than itself which would tarnish it or could be an imperfection. And this is not an abstract idea of some other realm apart from this realm. Okay? Reality is that which truly is, not that which truly is in another universe, as opposed to this universe where there are a multiplicity and diversity of objects and people all made out of matter. No. It means that reality, all that there truly is, here, now, in this realm, it is only one infinite, indivisible, whole, whose nature is being, or being aware being, consciousness. Consciousness is the stuff that is reality, and that is all there is. All there is consciousness. And consciousness is it inherently then like empty space before the appearance of any object. Within empty spaces is empty. There's no form there. There's no sight, no shape. And consciousness is like that. And actually this is in fact our experience. If we go directly, if we go to our thoughts, feelings, sensations, perceptions, there is form there is duration, there are qualities. But if we go directly to the experience of being aware, there's no qualities there. It's formless. So, to your question now, so how does creation come about? If that which truly is infinite, indivisible, and formless, how do we account for all of this? There is undoubtedly experience. We may not be experiencing a world, but even if this isn't a world, it is undoubtedly an experience. There is something here. There's not nothing here. There's something. So how do we account for that? If for the sake, how does the non-dual understanding account for this? If at the same time we say that reality, that which truly is without form. So the non-dual understanding suggests that reality, the infinite consciousness, is without form, but it contains all possible forms, all possible experiences within itself in potential, that they are unmanifest. It's just a realm of infinite potential. Now, in order to manifest any of that formless potential in form, consciousness has to divide itself, or seem to divide itself, into a subject and an object. The appearance and reality. Now, why is this? It's because in order for anything to be experienced or known, that thing must be known in subject-object relationship. Why can't you see your own eyes? Because your eyes can't stand apart from themselves and look back at themselves. You can see me because you stand at a distance from me. You can see the cameras, the lights, the windows, the sky, the tree. You can see everything that stands at a distance from yourself. But the only thing your eyes can't see are themselves, because seeing requires a subject and an object. And all experience, all knowledge and experience take place in subject-object relationship. In order to know an object, be that object a thought, an emotion, memory, a tree, all knowledge and experience takes place in subject-object relationship, which requires the subject standing apart from the object. So what duality, or the subject-object relationship, is the mechanism through which objective experience is known. So the subject-object relationship is the mechanism through which the potential that lies in consciousness is brought out into manifestation. So consciousness divides, or seems to divide itself into a subject that knows and an object that is known. So it divides itself into a perceiver and a perceived. And it's only from the point of view of the perceiver that it can know objective experience. And this is exactly the mechanism that takes place when you had a dream at night. You imagine that you fall asleep at home here in New York, but you dream that you're in London, walking on the streets of London. Now, your own mind, I'm talking now about your limited mind, but it's an analogy for consciousness. But your own limited mind is a single homogeneous field of consciousness, albeit a limited field. But nevertheless, you dream the streets of London within your own mind, but you don't view the streets of London from your bed here in New York. In order to view the dreamed world, the streets of London, your own mind not only creates or imagines the streets of London within itself, it localizes itself on the streets of London within its own imagination as an apparently separate subject of experience from whose point of view it perceives itself, or finite mind, as an outside world. Now, when you wake up, you realize there was no outside world there. There was no real division. My mind didn't really divide itself into two parts. My mind is always a whole. But from the point of view of the person that you seemed to be in a dream, your consciousness, or the consciousness with which you were perceiving the streets of London, lived just behind your eyes in your head. And everything on the streets of London seemed to be outside your consciousness. And your experience seems to corroborate this. When you close your eyes, it is in your dream. You're on the streets of London. When you close your eyes, the streets of London disappear. When you open your eyes again, the streets of London reappear. So it seems reasonable to conclude that whatever it is that is perceiving lives just behind your eyes, in your brain. Of course, when you wake up, you realize, that the knowing with which I perceived the streets of London didn't reside in my body. It didn't reside in my brain. It didn't reside anywhere in the time and space that seemed to be real on the streets of London. It lived in your mind asleep in New York. However, your mind couldn't access the dream directly. You can't be aware of your dream, the streets of London, directly from your bed in New York. You have to forget that you're sleeping in New York. You have to localize yourself within your own imagination. And it is only from the point of view of that localized mind that you are able to see what is in fact the inside of your own mind, but it appears as the outside world. Now, I would suggest this was a mechanism that it's exactly what happens, but one level up, that infinite consciousness imagines, as it were. It's a realm of infinite potential, but it imagines the universe in itself and simultaneously localizes itself within its own imagination as an apparently separate, finite mind, from whose point of view it looks at itself, its own activity, but it perceives it as the universe. Now, the difference between the individual, the dream that you had at night, is that you localize yourself as a single perceiver within your own dream, whereas I would suggest that infinite consciousness localizes itself as numerous apparent perceivers. Of course, I say apparent because in reality there are no individual. That just as there's no, you don't really become a mind or individual mind on the streets of London in your own dream. You only seem to. Likewise, I would suggest consciousness seems to become numerous finite minds, and through each of their perceiving faculties, it perceives itself as the universe. So this subject-object mechanism is the means by which consciousness draws manifestation, draws existence out of being, draws manifestation out of potential. It's through this mechanism of subject-object relationship that what is in reality one, infinite, formless and indivisible, appears as many finite things. So, and that's the subject-object relationship is the mechanism of creation or manifestation. Now, so we could say that manifestation is the interface between infinite consciousness and the finite mind that it seems to become. Infinite consciousness by itself, prior to localizing itself as a finite mind, has no knowledge or experience because it cannot stand apart from itself. So all infinite consciousness knows is its own being. There's no objective knowledge. It knows nothing. It is everything, but it knows nothing. It experiences nothing. In order to experience something, it must localize itself and become an apparently separate experience. So manifestational creation is the interface between, it's where the finite mind meets. It's the interface between the finite mind and infinite consciousness, and that creates the illusion of a world, the illusion of a created world. Why do I say that? It's because nothing real other than infinite consciousness is really created. When a movie begins, the screen appears as a landscape, but no real landscape has been created. It's just the screen. When you had a dream at night, no real streets of London are created. It's just an appearance of the reality of your finite mind, relatively speaking. So nothing apart from infinite consciousness is created. It all takes place, as it were, in the imagination of infinite consciousness. It's all in the activity of infinite consciousness. So in the ultimate analysis, there's no creation. Nothing exists. And make a statement like that, I have to qualify it because if wrongly understood, it could appear to be a very nihilistic, a life-denying statement. It's not. It's the opposite.
Can I ask something? Because I think you're going to get to it anyways right now. So there is a conversation in Deepak Chopra where you said you don't believe in incarnation, let alone reincarnation, in the context of that you are never born and you never die. So I think that's what you're probably going to talk about as well, that if you can elaborate on that, what does that mean? And because there are most of the people in the world believe in the concept of reincarnation.
I just want to backtrack one step, because having made this very bold statement that nothing exists, I want to be sure that that's not misunderstood, because it could appear to be a very nihilistic and world-denying, life-denying statement. It's actually the opposite. What I'm doing is what the filmmaker Pasolini said when he said of his films. He said, I am trying to restore to reality its original sacred significance. That's what I'm trying to. I'm not trying to downgrade the world. I'm trying to upgrade the world. I'm trying to restore to the world its original sacred significance. So what do I mean when I say nothing? In the ultimate analysis, nothing exists. The word existence comes from two Latin words, ex meaning out of, and sistere meaning to stand, suggesting that something that exists stands out from its background or its reality. It's like suggesting that a landscape in movies stands out from the screen. If the landscape exists, it stands out from the screen, but the landscape doesn't stand out from the screen. The landscape doesn't exist. It's just an appearance of what is, relatively speaking. So infinite consciousness divides or seems to divide itself into, and from the localized perspective of a finite mind, it perceives itself as the universe. But there's no real universe there, as it is normally conceived. There's no real person or separate self. These are appearances that are brought about through this apparent division into the subject-object relationship. The only stuff that truly is infinite consciousness. Things seem to exist, but all seeming things borrow their existence from being.
They don't have their independent existence.
Nothing has an independent. Everything that seems to exist borrows its apparent existence from that which truly is, namely being or being aware. Now, that leads nicely into your next question. It's true, I don't believe in reincarnation because I don't believe in incarnation. What is incarnation? The belief that what we are, what we truly are, is born and incarnate into the body. The belief that what we truly are, the one reality, infinite consciousness, is born in a body. That's like believing that the space of the universe was born into this room when this building was built.
It's already here.
It was already here, and although now it seems to be enclosed within and limited to the four walls of the room, even now, the space in this room is not in this room. It just seems to be. So even now, the being that we essentially are seems to be located in and limited to the body. But even now, it isn't. It's exactly the same in your dream. When you dream that you're asleep in your bed in New York, or you dream that you're walking in London, it seems that your mind, and relatively speaking, your mind in New York, is located in your body on the streets of London. It's not located in your body. The entire streets of London, including your body, are located in your mind. So I would suggest exactly the same thing. It is happening now. But what we truly are, consciousness, is perceiving through the faculties of the mind, but is not located in the mind. So even now we are not incarnate. We are not in the body. We are not limited to the body. We are not generated by the body, but we see through the perceiving faculties of the body. In fact, just to go back a little bit about what I said, that consciousness localizing itself, or seeming to localize itself as a separate subject to its brains, what is the mechanism by which that apparent localization takes place? Perception. Imagine a white piece of paper that represents infinite consciousness, and then just with a pencil draw a little circle on the white. Now there is a bounded consciousness within the vast consciousness. That's the finite mind. Now, what's that boundary made of? Perception. Seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling. So it is consciousness itself that arises in the form of perception, and in doing so, it seems to cast a boundary around itself. And it seems to localize itself. It then looks out from within that boundary through the perceiving membrane, and it sees itself, the rest of the white paper, in a way that is consistent with the limitations of those perceiving faculties.
Considering this is ultimate truth, who has free will, or do we have an illusion of free will? And when I mean I'm talking about the mind body that I call in here, or you call it Rupert. In this relative transactional world, do we have an illusion of free will? Should we act as if we have free will? Of course, but do we really have free will?
So I can't see whether King Lear has free will. There is no character called King Lear. There's no real person called King Lear. He's John Smith acting. John Smith has, within the limits of the analogy, John Smith is free. But in the form of King Lear, does King Lear have free will? There is no person called King Lear, either to have free will or not to have free will. So the question is moot, really. However, we do, as the see a separate subject of experience, we do feel that we have free will. And that feeling is not altogether illusioning. It is, we all know, we all feel in our gut, we all feel, I am inherently free. That's why nobody likes to be restricted. Everybody loves freedom. Is there anybody that loves to be constricted and confined and limited? I mean, no. We all love freedom. Why? And nor do we feel that freedom is something that we should earn. That some people should have more freedom than others. We all feel that freedom is our birthright. It's freely given, and that everyone should have it equally. Why do we feel this? It's because of this intuition that we have, even if we don't formulate it into terms on which we are speaking. It's because we all intuit, and in fact it's more than an intuition, it's a recognition that what we are at the deepest level is free. We all know that. And it's because of that that we all love freedom, that we rail against any kind of limitation, because we want to live in a way that is consistent with who we truly are. So, and it's for this reason that we feel we have free will. That the freedom we have, and we do have freedom, the freedom we have doesn't belong to us as a separate person. It is the freedom that is inherent in consciousness, that is the nature of consciousness, flowing through the conditioned faculties of our mind and body.
A big question, big criticism that people who get into Naujadi or Vedanta have is that you need to smuggle the mind in to even understand this knowledge, realize this truth. Because I don't know, people also lack around, can awareness be aware of itself? Or
can awareness be aware of itself, or is the mind necessary for awareness to be aware of itself? Awareness cannot not be aware of itself. You ask the question, can awareness be aware of itself? It's like asking the question, can the sun illuminate itself? The sun cannot not illuminate itself. The nature of the sun is Mayatwa, illumination, and therefore just by being itself, it illuminates itself. Awareness is like, in other words, the sun is self-luminous. It doesn't have to do anything special. It doesn't have to practice self-inquiry or meditate, or it just illuminates itself just by being itself. Yeah. The consciousness is like that. Its nature, conscience or awareness, I use the words synonymous. Consciousness is by nature conscious or aware. Its nature is awareness. So it cannot not be aware of itself. Just by being itself, it knows itself. Not in subject-object relationship. That consciousness' knowledge of itself is the only experience there is that does not take place in subject-object relationship. All other experience, without exception, takes place in subject-object relationship, except the awareness of being. Consciousness' knowledge of itself. In just the same way, we could say that all the planets are illuminated by the sun in subject-object relationship. The sun is the subject of the illumination, and the earth and the moon and the other planets are objects of that illumination. But its illumination of itself doesn't take place in subject-object relationship. It can't stand apart from itself, nor need it in order to illuminate itself. Consciousness is like that. It is self-luminous or self-knowing. And it's the only experience there is that is not mediated through the subject-object relationship, not mediated through a fogging mind. And therefore it's the only knowledge that is absolutely true. And now, the second part of your question, can awareness be aware of itself, or does it need a finite mind to know itself? Consciousness cannot, just as it cannot not know itself by itself, consciousness cannot know itself directly through the finite mind. Because the finite mind is like a filter. It's like a pair of glasses. In a human being, it's made of thinking and perceiving. So everything that is known through the finite mind shares the limitations of that finite mind and appears in accordance with those limitations. Why do we experience the world as a series of sights, sounds, tastes, textures, and smells? Because our perceiving faculties consist of seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling. So there is a direct correspondence between our perceiving faculties and what we perceive as the world. So everything that is known through, and the finite mind is by definition limited. It's like a pair of limited glasses or a VR headset that consciousness puts on. And everything consciousness sees through that finite mind, that VR headset, appears in accordance with the limitations of that headset. So consciousness, not only does it not need the finite mind in order to know itself. It cannot know itself through the finite mind. You can't see white snow through orange-tinted glasses. Consciousness does need the finite mind in order to perceive the world. Consciousness cannot see the world directly. Consciousness knows nothing by itself. Consciousness has no experience. Why? Because as we've discussed, in order to know or experience something, you must stand apart from that thing in subject-object relationship. The reason you can see that tree is because you see it from a single point of view. Imagine you were looking at that tree and you were to see it from 10 different points of view simultaneously, and then you were to superimpose all those 10 images on top of one another. It wouldn't look like a tree anymore. It's because you see, in order to see one tree, you must see it from one point of view. Imagine if consciousness by itself could perceive the tree. It would perceive the tree from every possible point of view in space. And it would superimpose all those images on top of one another. I mean, what would remain? It would just be the deepest, darkest blackness you could imagine. There would be no form there. In order to see an object, consciousness has to exclude all the other points of view. Localize itself as one point of view. It's only from that one point of view that consciousness can see an object. By itself, consciousness cannot know or perceive anything. The mind is needed to know anything objective, be that the objective world, or I include in objective knowledge thoughts. To know a thought, that I know my thoughts. I perceive the tree. The knowledge of our thoughts and the perception of the world, they all take place in subject-object relationship. But all of that has to be mediated through a finite mind. In the absence of a finite mind, consciousness has no objective experience. All it knows is its own being. So a consciousness needs to localize itself as a finite mind in order to have objective experience. Be that objective experience the experience of the world or the experience of thoughts and emotions. But in the form of the finite mind or through the faculties of a finite mind, it cannot know itself. It's like John Smith can't know himself through the character of King Lear. King Lear cannot know John Smith. Only John Smith can know John Smith. If John Smith wants to know Cordelia or wants to be King of England, then he has to assume the form of King Lear. But in order to know himself, not only does he not need to dress up as King Lear, in the form of King Lear, he cannot know himself. He knows himself by himself, direct. Well, consciousness is like that.
There are a lot of scientists who are also researching about space and time. Donald Hoffman specifically says that space and time are joined. So can you talk about that from a non-dual understanding?
Yes. Space and time are doomed in the sense that we used to think that space and time were inherent in reality itself, that the space and time were the medium within which and the universe, our experience, and so on, takes place. That is now, that idea, as you said, more and more people, Hoffman and many others, they're realizing that's not true. Space and time is how reality appears when it is modulated through a human mind. A human mind consists of the twin faculties of thinking and perceiving. So when consciousness looks through a human mind at itself, that's all there is in reality to look at. Its experience of itself is modulated through the limitations of that mind. And the human mind consists of thinking and perceiving. So when consciousness looks through the faculty of thinking, it no longer knows itself as it truly is, because it's been mediated through the mind, through thinking. So when consciousness looks at reality through the faculty of thinking, it appears as time. When consciousness looks at itself through the faculty of perception, it appears to itself as space. So time and space are how the eternal infinite nature of consciousness appear to itself when it views itself through the faculties of thought and perception. We could say that thought and perception superimpose time and space onto reality, which is itself eternal and infinite. Eternal and infinite. Eternal must mean everlasting in time, and infinite doesn't mean without limits in space. It means not in time or space. So when consciousness looks at itself, when consciousness refracts itself through the faculties of thought and perception, its eternal infinite reality appears as time and space. Time and space are okay. It's not the time and space are a property of the mind, it's thinking and perceiving that is a property of the mind. The thinking and perceiving confirm time and space on reality. They make reality look as if they were time and space. But in reality, there's no time and space. And this is actually your experience. Well, this is something that's it might sound very abstract and philosophical, but let's just do a little experiment. Would you agree that your experience is taking place now? Would you agree that all experience takes place now?
Yes.
Now, can you step out of the now into the past, just for a moment? Has anybody ever left the experience we call now and visited the place we imagine called the past?
You just have like a remembrance of it, but we can't.
But the memory takes place in
the present. Correct.
With our memory, we imagine the past, but we can't actually go there. With our imagination, we can imagine the future, but we can't actually step out of now and go into the future. So the past and the future are never experienced. They're imagined. But now is experienced. We are undoubtedly experiencing now. Now, since we've been talking, Amira, how many nows have you experienced? Only one. In your life, how many hours have you experienced?
Once.
Just one. And given that you've never experienced a past or a future, in other words, you've never actually experienced a line of time, how long does the now last?
It's not always zero, but it doesn't last.
It doesn't pass.
You're a second.
The now is not a moment on a horizontal line of time. It is the vertical dimension of being. But the vertical dimension of being intersects the horizontal line of time at the point we call now. So from the point of view of the mind, which imagines a line of time, the now is a moment, the present moment. But from the point of view of reality, now is eternity. So now partakes both of time and eternity. From the point of view of time, it is consumed as a moment. From the point of view of reality, it is eternity. Now, in other words, time is never actually experienced. That this is not highfalutin mondial philosophy. This is good. It is philosophy, but it's the true philosophy that is derived from experience, not from abstract reason. If you go deeply into the experience of now, as you quite rightly say, that there's only now, there's only one now, that the now has no duration, and the now is not moving along a line of time. The now is stationary. Now, do the same experiment with space. It's more difficult with space. Would you agree that your experience is currently taking place here?
Yes.
Would you agree that your experience always takes place here?
It's true.
Have you ever been over there?
Only in imagination.
You've imagined, yes, but we've imagined the past, when we imagine the future, but we can't actually go
It's not reality.
We imagine over there. But when we try to go over there, it's like trying to go into the past. We realize it's always here. So our experience is always here. And here is not, it's not a location in space. That the here doesn't move through space. The here is not a place in space. It is the place where consciousness is. It is the place where I am. Just as now is not extended in 2 dimensions of time. The here is not a place in 3 dimensions of space. 3 dimensions of space are, it's an illusion created by the senses. And this is confirmed by our experience, that we are always here. Have you not had the experience when you go traveling? You go on a long journey to the West Coast or something. When you arrive there, you have this uncanny feed. I've been here all the way. I haven't gone anywhere. It's always somebody asks you, how long did the journey take? And you pause and if you didn't take any time, it was now all the way. I was here. I was here now. The world moved through me. I didn't move through the world. It's perception that makes you think you move through the world. In reality, the here and now are not in time and space. They are the timeless, placeless place of consciousness. And it never goes anywhere. Sensations and perceptions flow through us, but we don't flow in them.
So it's an inter-consciousness on that.
Time and space are what consciousness looks like when mediated through the faculties of thought and perception. They're not really there. And we don't have. We don't have too much time, but that is actually our experience. You can verify this. What I'm speaking is not, they haven't derived it from mathematics or from philosophy, or it's my experience. It's your experience. It's everybody's experience. But most people's experience is so overlaid with beliefs plus the apparent evidence of sense perception that we don't realize that we're experiencing this. We're convinced that our experience takes place in time and space. And in contrast to that, what I'm suggesting seems to be abstract, highfalutin philosophy. It's the opposite. A belief in time and space, that is, time and space are an abstract ground that nobody has ever seen or experienced.
Just concepts that are just...
It's concept, it's like, it's not, I said earlier, the mind, our faculties, thought and perception are like glasses that we wear. It's more like contact lenses. If you wear glasses,
I'm wearing contact lenses.
Okay, I bet you forget you've got contact lenses on sometimes. Okay, I never forget I've got glasses on. I'm always aware I'm wearing glasses. But you've got contact lenses on. They're so close to your eyes, you forget that you're wearing them. Now imagine your contact lenses were tinted green. Everything you see would be green. But because you've forgotten you're wearing contact lenses, you think everything is green.
Right.
No, it's not. And your contact lenses are green. Well, our thinking and perceiving faculties are like contact lenses. It's not like a pair of glasses or even a heavy VR headset. It's like contact lenses that consciousness is wearing, and the contact lenses are tinted with thought and perception. But it's so close to consciousness that we don't realize we're wearing the lenses of thought and perception. So we think time and space is out there. It's not. It's in the perceiving faculties. What's out there is the infinite. And of course, even to say it's out there is not quite right. That I'm making a concession to our normal, to common parlance. It's difficult. You see, our language has evolved to describe the content of experience. Time, space. Time and space are implicit in almost everything we say. So when we try to talk about these things, all we've got are these rather clumsy abstract symbols that were designed to describe things. And now we're trying to use them skillfully in a way to describe, or not really to describe, and can't describe reality, but to invoke reality in a way they weren't really meant for. So language is, but let me put another way. Nothing I have said today is absolutely true, with the possible exception of I am. Everything else is my very best attempt to not describe, but to evoke reality in the listener, using reason sometimes, using experiments sometimes, using analogies, metaphors, just to try and give us a taste. Cezanne said this beautiful thing about his paintings. He said, what I'm trying to do with my paintings is give people a taste of nature's eternity. He didn't say I'm trying to explain nature's eternity. Nobody can explain nature's eternity. But that's what the artist tries to do, to take us there, to give us the visceral experience or taste. And that's what I'm trying to do with my words, clumsy as they are. I'm not trying to describe reality. I acknowledge that can't be done. I am is the very best I could do would be to remain silent. That wouldn't be very efficient. The next best is I am, but even that is not efficient unless you really understand it. So some explanation is needed. And we do our best not to describe, but to evoke reality in our viewers, in our listeners, and in each other. How does this understanding work? This understanding, it's like we just take it into ourselves. We listen to it, we read it, we ponder it, we turn it over, our mind raises objections, we ask questions, we receive a response, we measure the response against our own experience, we ponder it. We just take this understanding in, we take in words, the ideas, we take them in, we let them do their own work inside us. We can't grasp reality. We take in this understanding, and it's like this understanding is like a dissolving, revealing agent. It just does its work inside our mind, a mind that is constantly pondering these matters, exploring them, pondering them, meditating on. The understanding does its work. We don't do it. The understanding does its work in us. And very occasionally, when this understanding begins to dawn on us, that there is a big aha moment. It may be that recognition may be accompanied by unusual signs in the mind and the body, but usually not. Usually the understanding just works in us as a dissolving, revealing agent, and it just gradually clears away all the doubts, all the obstructions, all them, and gradually reality reveals itself to us, but it comes in through the back door, doesn't come in through the front door. It steals up on us, begins to overtake us. And in a way, it's safest if it happens like that, because we can never claim anything. We never claim enlightenment or understanding, or there's no big event. It's just our vision of ourselves, of others, of the world. It's gradually purified of all our old beliefs and feelings. And more our experience that the world, it begins to lose its bailing power. The world begins to shine with its reality.
The forgetfulness.
There is the forgetfulness, the amnesia evaporates. And that is felt on the inside as a deep peace, a deep, imperturbable, causeless peace. And on the outside, it's felt as love.
Thank you so much, Rupert.
Panja, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.